Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I am very, very happy to be here with you. And I have to say, I'm also slightly surprised that I survived my first year as president. But here we are. When I stood in Buenos Aires last year, I said yes to this role, not because I had all the answers, because clearly I do not, but because I love ally law. And after 1 year, I can confirm I still love it, possibly even more. This has been a year of travel, conversations, ideas, doubts, energy, jet lag, and a slightly concerning number of airport coffees. And if there's one thing I have learned, it is this. Human connection is still our superpower. And in today's world, it may be more important than ever. Let me start with where we are. We are a network of nearly 80 firms across more than 50 countries with thousands of lawyers working every day on complex cross-border matters. But numbers are not the point. The point is what happens between those numbers, because ally law is not a directory. It is what happens when you pick up the phone and call someone you trust in another country. It is what happens when a client problem becomes our problem. And we continue to grow. Carefully, but with real energy. Since our last AGM, we've welcomed 6 new firms from Honduras, the UAE and Egypt, North Macedonia, Israel, Ghana, and Turkey. This is not just geographic expansion, this is an enrichment of our network. New perspectives, new energy, new relationships, and let's be honest, hopefully many new referrals. Speaking of referrals, we often say that relationships matter, but do they actually translate into work? Well, the answer is very clearly yes. Very clearly so. This year, we crossed $8 million in referrals for the first time in our history. We're at just over 81 million, and that is before hearing from a few remaining firms who, if they're in the room, will know that I will find them. Don't worry, I'll be very kind, but I will find you. We all know that lawyers are excellent at chasing other people for information, we just sometimes struggle when the information is about ourselves. But jokes aside, this matters, so this is real work, real clients, real revenue. It also represents a 5% increase over last year and strong growth over time. So something is working. And what is working is trust. We've also remained financially disciplined as an organization. And despite some pressures on dues income, we stayed in the black and ended the year with a small surplus, which I think is what we all try to do in our firms as well. So at least we're consistent. Now, let me say a few words about something we cannot ignore: technology. AI is everywhere. Some of us are excited, some of us are cautious, some of us are pretending not to look. So instead of pretending we understand everything, we decided to learn together. We launched a new initiative with Legora, a legal AI platform. 23 firms are already participating and more are expected to join. And what I particularly like is that the more we participate, the more value we create together. But if there's one area where I think we have done something truly special, it is what I would call cross-pollination. We have created many more opportunities to connect throughout the year. Not only our regional meetings, but also moments in between. We gathered at INTA. We held 2 webinars on foreign direct investment, discussions on private equity, sessions on AI for legal marketers, and regional meetups linked to major conferences. These are not just events, they are touch points. They are moments where relationships are reinforced, where ideas are exchanged, where someone thinks, I didn't know this person before, but now I do. We're also seeing more firms investing directly in each other through secondments, through firm visits, through simply taking the time to connect when traveling. These are small things, but they aren't very small. They're important, and they're a strong sign of trust or bravery, or possibly both. Because this is how trust is built, and without trust, none of the numbers I mentioned earlier would exist. Let me say something slightly controversial. Many of us have had the opportunity to join larger firms, better branding, bigger budgets, more visibility. And yet we said no, because we value something different. Real relationships, agility, creativity, authenticity. This is not a weakness. This is our advantage. Being an independent firm is great. So where do we go from here? In 2 weeks, many of us will be together again in Dublin. Our theme is from technology to trust relationships. Yes, we will talk about technology, but the real work will happen elsewhere, in conversations, at dinner, walking between venues, and possibly after 1 or 2 pints, or 3. This is where trust is built. This is where you decide, I like this person, I trust this person, I will work with this person. And once that happens, everything else follows. Ally Law works because you make it work, because you show up, because you connect, and because you trust each other. So thank you. Travel safely, and I look forward to seeing you in Dublin, because in the end, human connection is our superpower. Thank you.
I want to thank our diligent Finance Committee. This team gained 2 new members since our last AGM. They include David Phelan and Shane Coblin, both of whom are also Ally Law Directors. Thank you all for your support. Now, I would like to review our 2025 results, our 2026 financials to date, and to report on last year's referral activity. Materials related to this report were circulated before this meeting, and there is a link in the chat that you can copy into your browser to access these materials now. December 2025 financials. Despite a revenue shortfall of $36,500, we managed expenses carefully, and we ended the year with a surplus of almost $6,000. The revenue shortfall included $27,000 less in subscriptions than expected, and $9,600 more in bad debt than originally estimated. This is attributable to the 2 firms that left without paying their 2025 subscriptions. Both have since been replaced by active and enthusiastic new members, which is great. We also had some firms ask for discounts after receiving their 2025 invoices. We cut costs by not attending the IBA and by reducing our spending on the Ally Law website. We also saved money on travel. Kudos to our president, who only flies economy or coach. As you may recall, we ended 2022 and 2023 with a loss in both years, which were offset by our historical retained earnings. After ending up in the black last year and this year, we've replenished that cushion. Our 2025 year-end balance sheet shows that we're back up to $155,000. This is important because we dip into this reserve each year to fund event deposits for the following year. In 2025, deposits for 2026 events totaled about $50,000. The good news is that there were no unpaid accounts at year-end. Next are our 2025 draft statutory accounts. These are filed annually with Companies House in the United Kingdom. According to UK guidelines, as a small company, we do not have to have an audit. However, as part of our fiduciary responsibility to the membership, we annually fund an outside review of our financial records conducted by chartered certified accountants. M. Jaffa Co. has done this review of Ally Law's accounts for 15 years. In January, we sent Jaffa our QuickBooks accounting records for review. They selected a sample of transactions to verify that complete documentation is available to substantiate each transaction, that items are coded appropriately for the income statement, and that the balance sheet calculations have been performed correctly. Jaffa requested no adjustments be made to our year-end report. There were no significant variances. We will vote to approve these accounts at the end of this business meeting. 2026 budget. The 2026 budget is included in the materials. This year, we took an exceptionally conservative position on income, and assuming that some firms could leave or ask for discounts. In January, various directors and Wendy contacted every firm that did not turn in a vote approving the 2026 subscriptions. This process enabled us to have many substantive conversations about how firms could realize greater value within Ally Law. Based on these calls, we reduced dues for 11 firms with the requirement that they be active in the organization. These discounts totaled $33,000. On the expense side, we have assumed a strong Ally Law presence at the IBA, which follows directly the EMEA meeting in Copenhagen, Denmark. Ally Law at the IBA is a valuable endeavor. In 2024, our presence at the IBA led to the successful recruitment of Chance Bridge, our powerhouse member in mainland China. There has been no increase in the liftoff contract since 2023. The 2026 AGM was budgeted to cost the organisation more due to much higher value-added tax levels in Ireland when compared with Argentina. Most other costs are budgeted at the 2025 actual levels. We project a slight budget surplus at year's end of about $1,700. March 2026 financials. Next, our results so far this year. The March 2026 financials were included in the advanced materials. Collections on dues have proceeded quickly. I give special recognition to our friends in Vancouver. Their wire arrived the day after they received their 2026 invoice. We had one firm resign from the network after declining to attend the AGM. However, this firm has been replaced with a clear market upgrade. On the expense side, we have not recorded the $66,000 in fees paid for the AGM, although we have already prepaid for many of the costs. Bank charges are higher than budgeted, as many firms have paid their annual dues via credit card. There are no substantive variances that require a revision of the expense forecast. 2025 referrals. Next, I'd like to report on these referrals for 2025. Our draft report shows $8.188 million collected in 2025, compared with only $7.895 million in 2024, and that is a welcome increase of almost 5%. We are waiting to hear back from several firms in the cross-check process, and there are a few firms that have not yet filed any report on their 2025 referrals. We hope to collect this information soon. The firms receiving the most income include Edwin Co. in London with $1.18 million, Russell Kennedy in Melbourne and Sydney with $601,000, Music Peeler with $536,000, Melchers with $461,000, and Obermeyer at $388,000. We like to recognise those firms that send substantial work to Ally Law members. Our top referring members include Varnum, Williams Parker, Much, Berliner Cohen, and Formosan Brothers. Many former members of the network also continue to use Ally Law firms extensively. The materials sent in advance of this meeting include more information about the 2025 referrals. Please review your firm's report carefully and let our office know if there is any information or data that is incorrect. One final comment. This year we asked firms to report the names of corporate clients. Most members included this information in their reports. This greatly sped up the cross-check process and allowed us to assist a few members with collection issues. We see firms struggling to get their referral reports completed in a timely manner. At the AGM, we'll spend some time discussing what gets reported, how it's reported, and how your firm can make it easier to track the information. I want to send a special thank you to Russell Kennedy. Their report is extensive. Not only are they the firm with the second highest inbound income, they also send many referrals. Their data is always turned in on time, it's always complete, and it's easy to validate. So kudos to Gina, Marika, Andrew, and Walter. Thanks everyone. This concludes the report, and I will now turn back to Paola.